Hello, this is Vivek. Welcome to the next video in this PHP Forms for Beginners series. Here in this video, I am going to work on adding a PHP Form Violations. Before that, let's submit this form and see what the response we are getting. Within Post Super Global, in previous video we have worked on this form, that is complete HTML form. If you haven't watched it, just check out the previous video. And here I am going to add a PHP block before this HTML tag. Before adding any HTML, here I have opened a PHP tag. I am using a print underscore or post super global, and we are going to use it with a $_ post for using a post super global. And if you have seen get super global and a session super global, you already know how this will works. This post super global, we are going to access it with this post, and for accessing post super global you should add a method post. If you use it like this, if you are using a form opening tag without a method attribute, it won't work. You should add a method attribute and a post. If you are using it with a get also, it won't work. I'm going to show you both the ways, and also I'll show you the HTML form violations also. Okay, I'm saving this page and I'm going to submit this form. Let's reload this page. Here you can see empty array. After submitting the form, you should see the difference. These are the names that I'm using for this input fields. F name is for first name and L name is for last name, and email is for email, gender is for gender male, and if I select a female, we should see female. Here it's a value because I'm not submitting any values for these three input fields. We are not getting any value. For gender, by default male is selected, so we are seeing this male value. Age, select your age. By default this value is being sent, and what we should do is I should add value empty. Now if I submit the form, let's reload this page and submit the form. Now you can see it's an empty value, and if I select a female, this female value is being passed. If I submit any other values, and value for age, now you can see all these values: F name, Vivek, L name, and email, my email, and gender, age. Now you can see all these values, and you can add validations in two ways. One is PHP Form PHP Validations, and another one is HTML5 Violations. So let's see how we can add HTML5 Violations. First I am going to add HTML5 Violations for this first name field. Just we have to make required. We have to add required attribute. That's it. If I submit the form without this value, let's load this page. If I submit this form, now you can see please fill in this field. Previously, after submitting this form, we can see all these values here. Let's remove this once again and reload the page, so that after submitting we should see the difference. After submitting, these values are being submitted, these input fields are submitted, and we can see the post super global with the F name, L name, email, all these empty values. If I add a required attribute, let's reload the page. It's an empty post super global, and if I submit the form, we are seeing this message, please fill in this field. And if I add name instead of email, here it's asking me for this one, please include an @ in the email address. Vivek is missing an @. It should be in the email format. That's why I am using email field. And if I make last name as a number just for testing purposes, if I try to add any text, it won't work. Only numbers will be added, and we can increase and decrease. We can add min and max attributes for this number input fields. I am not going to add that. It's okay. I am removing this required from this first name field. I hope you understand how we can add HTML5 validations for these input fields, and it's not secure. Why it's not secure, I'm going to show you. Let's add this required again. Okay. If I reload this page and submit the form, it's required field. You can just go to the source code by inspect, and we can just delete required like this, and we can submit the form. If we don't have PHP validations, anyone can bypass this. If he has a little bit of coding knowledge, he can remove these required fields or any other validations, and he can bypass this validation process. For that, we are going to add PHP Form validations. Now we'll see how we can add that. And before proceeding further, if I reload the page, every time we are seeing an empty array. We don't want to see this. For that, we should add a if block for checking a post super global. Then only we are going to proceed with adding a PHP validations inside this block. If is set $_post and not empty $_post. Okay, let's load this page in browser. Now we shouldn't see this array. It's not appearing. Only after submitting the form we should see. And here we have this required attribute. Let me remove it. Okay, I have removed this required attribute. Let's load this page. Submit. After submitting the form only we are seeing this post super global values. Otherwise we won't be able to see these values. For that purpose I have added this if block. If is set post and not empty post. Okay, let's proceed with adding a PHP form validations. If here I am adding a check. If the input field is empty, then I am going to display an error message. If empty $_post and the input field name is name attribute. That's a f name. I am going to use f name. Echo first name field is required. That's it. Now if I see first name field is required, and we can make it up better by displaying this message here, and we'll do that in a next video while working on displaying error messages and a success message in the next video. For now I am just doing echo, and that's it. For adding a PHP form validations, we are going to check whether the submitted value is empty or not. If it's empty, we'll assign or display a simple error message so that user will understand that field is required. That's it. And if I submit a value for this input field, now we won't be able to see this first name field is required. It's not asking, but after submitting a value, in case of errors, we should see this value back. Here I am not seeing this value back. That is a first name field's input value. We should use the value again in this form so that user can update the values and submit the form again. We are also going to work on that in our next videos in this series. You are going to learn about everything in forms. Don't worry about it, and I am going to show you everything step by step. And if the first name is submitted, we are not seeing the error. Next I am going to add this validation for last name, email, gender and age, all these fields. Let's add it. It's a simple, just copying it and adding it for L name. Last name field is required. Email field is required. Let's submit the form. I'm going to add a break tags here so that we can see it in a new lines. Otherwise all these error messages will be in a single statement. Let's submit the form. I'm reloading this page and submit the form. I can see first name field is required, last name field is required, email field is required. If I add a last name, now we shouldn't see the last name error. If I add first name and email, I shouldn't see these two except the last name error. Last name field is required. It's working properly. Let's work on this gender. Before adding a gender validation, that is radio button validations, I am going to remove checked attribute for this radio button so that you can see how it's working. I have removed this checked attribute, so this radio button won't be selected. By default, user should select the radio button. Gender field is required, or please select a gender. You can add a message, anything. I'm reloading the page, submitting the form. Gender field is required. If I select a gender, I shouldn't see this message. It's working properly and we should check these values in case of error message. And last field is this age drop down list, select drop down list. It's a simple, it's the same like that. Copying this if block. Age field is required. Age field is required, and for this to work, you have to add a value as empty value for this first input field or for this message. If I am not using this value attribute, let's see what will happen. It's not showing, it's considering this as a value. So this message has a value. For display text, you should add a value with the empty value attribute with the empty value. I hope you understand this while working with the select drop down list. If I submit a form, we are seeing all these errors, and I'll select a value. We shouldn't see this age. And if I select a gender and age, we shouldn't see these two messages. It's working. We have worked on this. We have worked on adding a form validations with a PHP and a HTML5. And I hope you understand everything about adding form validations in PHP. If you want to learn more about PHP forms, do check out the videos in this series. If you want to learn PHP with the projects, do check out the courses, and all the links are provided in the description. Thank you for watching and do subscribe to my channel.